So when we discussed together, Sophie, about the content of my presentation, she asked me to introduce myself and also to explain what I do. And well, I have 10 minutes to explain my life, actually. And you will see that it's like very interdisciplinary, and it's a kind of life in motion. So as you said, I started when I was 2 years old, playing tennis. I was a big fan, trying to get already like the maximum of autograph as I can. Like for example, you can see on the image the Swiss Olympic champion Marc Rosset, in that case. That's a very long time ago. I quickly become the best player in Switzerland for my category of age. I won like 13 Swiss champion title, as another very good Swiss player did as well. It's like Roger Federer that you can see on this picture. Much better than me in tennis, for sure. Well, I continue with a professional career, so I played all the major tournaments like Roland Garros, Wimbledon. I was 4 in Switzerland, 256 in the world. But unfortunately, when I was 18 years old, I have to stop my career because of a chronic injury at the shoulder. I got 2 surgery. So then you will question yourself, so then what next? So fortunately for me, I continue school when I was also doing my career, so I was doing the school at home. So I had the opportunity to start university with the same age as everyone. So I had like very some difficulty to decide what I wanted to do, because there were like already many disciplines that was interesting for me, like for example medicine, political science, economy, computer science. Well, I had to decide. I ended up with 2 different diplomas. So one in information and communication systems, it's related to computer science. Another one in international relations, nothing to do with computer science, but very interesting as well. I continue with a master's in computer graphics, and finally a PhD. And I got like a very nice opportunity and a very original topics. So I specialize on motion capture, but the idea was to study the extreme motion of the hip joints in ballerinas, because you know ballerinas, they have like at a very early age hip problems. So the idea was to use motion capture and medical imaging, where you do 3D reconstruction on one side, then the motion capture, you combine the 2, and you are able to actually simulate the joint in motion and to see what is happening if there are some stress and so on. So that was like the beginning of motion capture for me. In 2011, I create Artanim with 2 other co-founders, so Sylvain and Clémentine Lowe. And we decided to create a center specialized in motion capture technology, where the idea was to develop and promote the use of this technology for different, several domains. We have actually 2 different axes of research. So the first one is related to medical application in the continuation of my PhD, where we are using this kind of technology for orthopedics, for sport medicine, medical imaging, but also some projects in neuroscience, which are also very interesting as well. The other axis of research is related to virtual, augmented reality, 3D animation, real-time interaction. So you see that there are already like many disciplines here. It's many interdisciplinary in that case. But that's very interesting to see how we can use only one technology, which is motion capture, apply in different fields. So I have selected some projects so that you have a better idea of what we can do using this kind of technology. So of course, what is the most known is to use motion capture for movies, for 3D movies, or for video games, where you have the infrared cameras that capture the markers that you have on your suit, actually. And then based on that, you are able to track the motion of your actors and then apply it to virtual characters. So we do from time to time, some project as well in Switzerland, where we do motion capture for animation and video games. So that's one example of this use of technology. I select another project, which is called Fashioning Movement. That's a collaboration we did with Odlo, the sportwear company, and the head in Geneva. So the idea is to use, for example, what you can see on the video, we use the 3D body scanning technology in order to acquire the body or to clone the athletes. Then motion capture, we have several kind of motion capture systems where we can also capture outside of the studio. We do the animation of the virtual clone. And then on top of that, the idea is to simulate clothes in order to estimate the comfort of sportwear on top of the body. So the idea is to redesign then or improve the design of the cloth using body motion. Another example that I select that was also quite interesting comes from a PhD student in the University of Geneva. He was doing a PhD in humanities and studying, in fact, the fight of knights in medieval armor. That was funny because he was like very interested in that case to analyze the possible range of motion that you can do when you have such an armor. So he came in our studio with the real replica. We stick also some markers on it. It was quite difficult because you have a lot of reflection in that case, but we were able to gather the data he needed for his PhD. Quite interesting as well. Another project, for this one I don't have a video, but we are also using motion capture for neuroscience. For example, this is an example we have in collaboration with EPFL and the University of Lausanne. So the idea is to combine motion capture with EEG and to actually study when the social interaction when two people are doing a task, a motion task together. So the idea is to detect the synchronization in terms of movement when they are doing the things together, the synchronization also of your brain and so on. That's another possibility where you can use motion capture, but this time in neuroscience. I got also the opportunity, since medical application is my background and using motion capture for this kind of study, to return to the roots and also to understand better what happened inside my joints when I got my shoulder injury, for example. So we did, for example, a very interesting study where we asked several ex-professional players to play tennis, to be motion capture, also to get the 3D reconstruction of the joint and to better understand what was exactly happening when you do like serve motion, like you do like a forehand, a backhand and so on, and to have a better idea of the stress zone inside the joint, which was actually what happened to me during my professional career. And the last project I wanted to present you is our VR experience. And well, the idea came out like some years ago because there were several VR applications that was offered, but we were a little bit disappointed because all the time you are sitting, seated in a chair, you have a joystick, so you have a kind of disconnection between what you are seeing and what the ear is undergoing. So you don't have, somehow you have most of the time motion sickness that come very easily. As a motion capture specialist, we thought we should do something different. So we should combine motion capture and VR. So the idea of this setup is that you have like small markers, you have it on the hand, on the feet, you can test it afterwards during the show as well. You have also markers on the headset, and the idea is to track your motion in a smaller space, and then you are able to freely move in the virtual environment. You are also able to see yourself, because self-embodiment is also very important, so you can see your own body. It's multi-user, so you can see also the other user that is doing the experiment with you. And you can also, with the motion capture system, track some objects on the floor, or as you can see on the video, the box, the crystals, and so on. So the idea is to get also the sense of touch in the virtual world, so that you have also interaction with with the physical object and the other user. So if you didn't have the chance to test, you can come after tonight or tomorrow. We are still there. Then you are wondering what next. So we are also working on different projects right now. We have already like some idea how to push also our VR project. Of course, we are very open to see what we can do more. I mean, using the same kind of technology, if we can find new innovation, new application, and so on. So if you have an idea that you think that could be interesting for us, we will be very happy to collaborate and to find out if we can help you in your project. And then you are wondering, do I have time to play tennis? Not so much, so I try to find another way to play tennis. It's this.
Le prêtre pour entraînement. Police.
Well, you see that it's working also in VR, so that's interesting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think I could ask questions, but I think it's much more valuable if you just go and try it out and ask the questions right when you're there in the gear. Thank you so much, Caecilia.
You're welcome.